Cool, so now I want to switch gears a little bit. We talked a lot about scripting in Bash, which is super nice. I actually want to focus on another topic, which is the interactive use of Bash. Because as you've seen, I'm using Bash interactively. It is the terminal I'm using. I'm also writing code for Bash, but I'm using the terminal here. And what you may have noticed is we have Dave at YSAP with this nice little $sign. Hey, this is kind of nice. You may have noticed that I press L, but I still get LS because I seem to have an alias already set up. That's kind of cool. I definitely seem to have some aliases. What about chummed? Because sometimes I misspell chmod. Yeah, definitely aliases set up. So how do I do that? Well, the way that I am accomplishing this is in my home directory, which you can get by doing the tilde operator. Tilde will expand to your home directory. There is a file there called .bashrc. You may or may not have this file. If you create this file, it should get used by your shell when you log in. There are some intricacies around it. Again, I've made a whole video deep diving into it, but for the most part, you should just be able to modify your bashrc and it should just work for you. Now, if we vim this file, let's go ahead and vim the bashrc. Uh-oh, wait, hold on. What did I just do right there? Look at that. I typed in vim $! This is a form of history expansion in Bash. In fact, I think readline even handles this for you. That's for the nerds to let me know. This exclamation $! Basically says, give me the last argument of the last command that was run. So it's really cool. If I were to echo, hello, how are you? And then I were to echo bang $! We get echo U. It prints the command fully and then it runs the command. So you'll notice that it prints this vim command and then it actually ran vim. So that is a form of substitution there. It's super nice. You can expand basically to that. If you want to run the last command again, you can just do this, bang, bang. And there you go. It will expand to the last command. And of course, this is all part of history. So if we run that history command, you can see there's all this stuff going on here. What if I really quickly wanted to run this command? Command number 2396, exclamation mark, 2396, hit enter. There you go. Yeah, so previously I think I talked about history expansion with set -h and set +h. If you have set -h set, then it should work for you. Hopefully in my last action I had this right because there's set -h and set +h. I may have told you the wrong one. Wow, I really hope I didn't. And when I go back in editing, I'll hope that I didn't make that mistake. You can do set +h, and this will turn it off. So now exclamation marks are just literal exclamation marks. They won't have any special treatment, but this means that your history expansion will break. So if I wanted to rerun the history command, the last command 2418, it'll just yell at me and tell me 2418 is there. So set -h will turn it on, and then that works how you'd expect it. So that's a form of history expansion. So that's one of the cool things of dealing interactively with this. But yeah, let's go ahead and reopen that bashrc. Oh, wait, hold on. What's going on here? What's happening here? Reverse search? What's going on? I press Control R. Press Control R and I can search through my history in reverse. So I hit Control R, I start typing the command I want, V for Vim, doesn't quite show up, I could type I, and there it is right there. The other thing I can do, I do Control C to break out of it. Control R, V, it doesn't show up, I can hit Control R again, and this will jump to the next thing it found. So this is super useful. It is super convenient to be able to jump through your history like this. Let me vim the bashrc, and here we go. Here's a very basic bashrc. How many lines? I think it's 158 lines. There's a lot here. I don't expect you to understand all of this, but I'm going to show you that my dot files are online. I will put them in the references here. You can pull these down and look through them and see how I set things up. So here we go. We have the first thing I like to check. You don't technically really need to do this, I don't believe, but I like to make sure if the PS1 variable is set. Remember we talked about the PS4 variable? There's also a PS1 variable. We'll get to that. If the PS1 variable is already set, then we just stop running because that means we're not running interactively. Something has sourced this file. It probably shouldn't have, but we're not running in a way that makes sense. So let's just go ahead and return here. You'll see this is common in a lot of bashrcs. Then I like to set my environmental variables. We use the export keyword here. I haven't talked much about this. This puts the variable into my environment. So now when I fork and exec new commands, they get access to these variables. So I like my editor to be Vim. Grep color, certain versions of grep will allow it to highlight the color that it sees. I don't actually know if my version of grep was doing that or not. But yeah, I do like to sometimes give it color. LS colors, some versions of LS support this, some don't. But when I run LS, these are the colors I like everything to look like. I don't remember this syntax off the top of my head. I wrote this probably 15 years ago, so feel free to steal it if you like how my colors look with LS. The pager I prefer is less. The time zone, it used to be set to Eastern Standard Time, and then it yelled at me and it said it wanted a place, it didn't want a name, so New York is one of the most common Eastern Standard Time. So, hey, easy enough. Visual, Vim. That is used by some programs to, I don't even remember the difference between Visual and Pager, to be honest. Someone can tell me what the difference is. I just forgot at this point, but I just put Vim there because, like, hey, I don't know, open in Vim. I don't even know many programs that even respect Visual anymore, to be honest. I'd have to pull that stuff back up in my brain. And then path, I just add something to my path variable at the end of opt homebrew bin because I'm on my Mac and I want to pull in the homebrew thing. This is just for the record, this is a stripped down version of my bashrc. This is specific for this bash course, so it's more approachable. The one in my GitHub is a little bit more complex. There's a lot more stuff there, so feel free to peruse that at your leisure. We go down here. I stole these a long time ago maybe from ZSH. I don't remember where. It might even be on like an Arch Linux. No, this would be before this. Some very old version of Linux. I honestly don't remember. It's been so long. I wish I could remember. This tells less how to color things. So there's a lot of stuff here. But if you put all this stuff in here, I'm surprised it even uses tput. But if you put all this stuff here, when I man something, notice that my man pages have colors. If you're wondering how do I get this, that's what I'm using. I'm using the less term cap little variables here to do it. So super duper useful. Now we have some more stuff. We have some shell options. I will dive into these more in the next section of this, but let's jump down here. So we have our bunch of aliases. We have, oh my goodness, so many aliases, so much fun stuff to talk about. Let's talk about make prompt. So this is a function I wrote and the function immediately gets called. The reason I do this, the reason I pick this pattern is because functions can have variables that have limited scope. So I don't want these variables to be defined. If I just define a variable here, like foo equals hello, when I'm on my terminal, I'll just have access to foo. I'll be bleeding into that space. I don't want that. So I put the variables in here behind the local keyword, and then I don't have to worry about them. They get thrown away after this finishes. So make prompt is what I want to focus on because it modifies the PS1 variable. As you can see, it sets it here, and then we add stuff to it. So this is how we make the prompt. The prompt is this string. I modify this file? Okay. The prompt is this string, Dave@ysap with the $sign at it with all the colors. So how we do that is I pick all my colors that I like here. So I have the reset character, I have the bold one, and then I have colors that I like. These were arbitrarily picked. I just happen to like these colors. And then we make the prompt. I like to put a comment that shows what we're trying to make. So this part just adds the username. So as you can see, we print color1 and then Dave and then reset. Now this is very important. Do you see this extra escaped opening square bracket and this extra escaped closing square bracket that shows up here? It shows up here. It even shows up down here. You wrap the color codes in this, okay? When you are making a prompt for bash or whatever shell, you want to put your color codes in this because this tells bash that whatever is in here does not count as the length of the prompt. This is very important. You really want to have these here. If you don't put these here, your prompt will still work. You may have seen this where the prompt works, but then when your cursor's like going over here, and then suddenly it gets here, like it gets like 80% of the way to the terminal, and then it goes to the next line, but the line's kind of overwriting itself and your cursor gets all messed up and you're like, why is my shell messed up? Why am I typing over commands? It says I'm typing here, but I'm not actually typing there. Most likely there's probably something escaped improperly in your prompt. You want to put this here, which basically says, hey, don't count the next set of characters towards the length of the string, which I use the color codes here. They're not printable. They're not going to count towards length. And then you put this here to say, hey, now start counting them all to length. So anytime you see color in my prompt in bash, I'm wrapping them in these square bracket notation. It's very important. Then no different here. When it comes time for the @ sign, we turn on the bold, we turn on color 2, and we put a literal @ sign there. That is what we do that. Get down here and we put the host name in here. I'm lying about the host name. I literally just hard coded the string ysap because that's what this course is all about. So this is just a lie. It's not actually the host name. I could put the host name in there and I will show you how to do that. And then we put the prompt character, which is the $sign. Now notice that I escape the $sign. This is actually key. Bash respects this. If you escape the $sign, it will use a $sign if you are a normal user, and it will use a £sign if you are the root user. So you'll see this. You'll see $signs when you're a normal user. Root will have that little £sign or, the hash mark or the octothorpe, whatever you want to call it. ZSH or any sort of C shell variant will have a %sign for normal users, but it will also probably have the £sign for root users. This is how you get that. So I don't have to manually write code to check if I'm root or not. No, I just do this and bash knows how to expand this, which is super cool. So in this example, we have our ysap hostname here. We've manually turned it into ysap. What if we wanted to get our actual hostname? Well, we have the $hostname variable, and that's great, but is there an easier way to tell bash to do this? Well, actually, yes, there is. We could do \h. So if we do that, and we reload bash, exec bash, meaning tell this shell to re-become the bash process, we can see that we have Dave at studio because my host name is studio.local. So that is a truncated version of my host name. If you wanted the full host name, you can give it a /H and you will get the full host name. So let's reload the shell. And now we have studio.local there. So that's how you do that. Let's go ahead and rechange this to YSAP. There are a bunch of other things here. I'm going to pull up a website for that. In the official bash manual, as you can see, we're on gnu.org here. It actually shows there's a bunch of things you can use for all the different prompts here. So here are some of the backslash you have. So we have the host name up to the first dot. The capital H is the host name, and there's all sorts of stuff. The number of jobs, the base name of the shell's terminal device. You can put carriage returns. I don't even know why you'd want to do that. We can put the time in the prompt, which is kind of nice. You can see exactly like when a command started, and you can have all sorts of stuff here. Like there's a ton of stuff you can put here. Begin a sequence of non-printing characters. This could be useful to embed a terminal control sequence into the prompt. That's what we did. That's where we put our color codes, and then we escape the non-printing characters. This is so Bash can correctly calculate the length. Again, I'll link this in the references, but there's a ton of stuff you can do to customize your PS1 prompt. And of course, it mentions the other one, PS4. There's PS2, which is select, and PS0. I don't even know what PS0 is. So I mean, like, I love Bash, and I don't even know which one that is. So that's really funny.